Nisha grabs the knife and hits Mitche in the side of the head with it. It slices his arm. He yells, "Ah!" And then Nisha punches him directly in the face to the floor. James, however, grapples Nisha from behind, disarming the knife from behind before his brother can be stabbed, and then flips her onto the front of her face onto the ground. Nisha pulls out a gun in which James kicks the gun out of her hand, and then Nisha attacks James by tackling him to the ground, and they both fall to the ground at the same time. Roy knees Tess into the stomach multiple times before Tess could use his kneecap to block the next available hit to the stomach, then punches Roy in the face. Roy punches Tess right back, and just for Tess to enter his kneecap into Roy's six-pack and swirl around and kick him in the back into the concession stand. Roy turns around immediately. He pulls out another knife and nearly stabs Mitche in the face. Mitche grabs the knife just in time before he's immediately stabbed in the face, and uses his foot in which he was wearing iron-toed boots to score and discharge the knife out of his hand before turning around and kicking Roy in the skull, in which he had performed a triple kick to Roy Carson's skull before he landed a fourth hit in the head to the side, forcing Roy Carson to land side head first from the ground. Roy Carson then slammed face first, hitting his jaw on the floor. Tess grabs Roy from behind, but Roy manages to headbutt Tess in the face, and then kicks him in the stomach from behind. Then Carson jumps on to Tess, swirling around, throws his legs around Tess's neck, and slams him on the back on the floor. James Mitche, which was basically fighting Nisha Reigns, in which both the male and the female were performing what was known normally as a battle of the sexes. James was constantly avoiding Nisha's punches and kicks. Nisha somehow grabbed the beer bottle and busted James's head with it. He fell back and stumbled back forward before Nisha could punch James Mitche in the back of the head. Colden, however, who was still alive from the slash and arm, ran directly at Nisha, performed a flip onto his hands, and used his legs to flip Nisha front first onto her back several feet away before Colden ended up helping James Mitche on the ground. Colden helped James onto the ground as Brad Mitche entered the room, who had a busted open head. Nisha attacks both James and Colden officially, kicking Colden in the face, kicks James in the stomach, and then as James and Colden Mitche, Denny Bracker's double sons basically attacking Nisha at one time. However, Nisha learns her own tactics. She avoids both male attacks and counterattacks one of Colden Mitche's moves in which Nisha pulls out a gun and Brad Mitche runs towards Nisha and avoids the whole situation and saves his brother Colden, immediately wasting a bullet from the 9mm Beretta. Brad Mitche officially holds the gun Nisha was using up in the air and forces to waste 2 bullets.
Get your feet off of there.
Brad uses his foot, which was another soldieristic candidate wearing iron-toe boots, and counterattack kicks Nisha Reigns back by her stomach, therefore discharging the gun, in which the gun slings directly past Tess Mitche's head. Roy calls Tess Mitche, who was in a chokehold by Roy Carson still hanging in there, pulls a lever from the film studio and stabs Roy directly in the kidney with the threshold piece. Stands up onto the floor and enters it into his kidney even farther and then rips it back out. Roy Carson screams in maliciously pain as he rips it back out. And Tess Mitch perpetratingly uses his hand to sling the blood off the threshold of the piece and stabs them in the chest with the threshold of the piece again. Roy stares at the piece, in which Tess responds, "I know that name, bro." And rips the threshold piece directly out of Roy Carson's stomach area connected to his chest. Nisha turns around after the situation at hand and stares directly at Tess Mitch. However, Roy wasn't done yet. Roy gets up and headbutt tackles Tess Mitch directly to the skull, then punches him in his chin directly outward, forcing Tess Mitch to stumble back. Roy Carson gets up and immediately tackles Tess Mitch to the floor. Misha smirks, and Colden, and that's when Colden and Brad Mitch take advantage of Nisha's situation from behind. They both attempt to double gang Nisha Reigns from behind, blowing various punches to the back of the head. Brad Mitch manages to give the double punch directly to the back of Nisha Reigns' head. However, Nisha turns around, grabs Brad Mitch's fist, grabs Colin Mitch's fist, swirls around into midair from behind, and forces the two on their face multiple feet across the room. Misha, both brothers immediately land face and body first onto the ground, several feet from Nisha. Brad Mitch, in which Colin Mitch did not get it back up at the same time as Brad. Brad Mitch, however, stood up and realized, in checking Mitch's pulse, that Colin was knocked out. And Brad Mitch looked directly at Nisha in a very mad, angry face, runs directly towards Nisha and tackles Nisha to the ground through a glass window from behind. James Mitch notices the situation at hand, and while Stephen Taylor was waking up in the main corridor to a screaming Nisha, who was literally attacking Brad Mitch.